Hello, everybody. Welcome once again to another episode of the Core Podcast, a podcast dedicated to exploring the mindset, strategies, and stories of those who dare to dream big and build something extraordinary. This week, I was sad to read in the news about a number of businesses laying off workers and shutting down operations. This got me thinking. And in this week, I would like to share some of those thoughts and feelings with you. If they resonate, please share. If they in any way offend you, please indicate which parts do. I would like to understand how we view things as a community and, more importantly, as builders of things. And on that note, this week's episode is called The Quarterly Trap. There is a particular loneliness in running a company. But running a listed company, that is a different species of pressure entirely. As an incoming CEO, the clock starts the moment your name hits the press release. You have roughly 90 days before the market asks a single but blunt question. What have you changed? Not what have you built, not what have you learned, but what have you improved? And improvement in the language of modern markets is almost translated into a single dialect: quarterly numbers. This is where the trap snaps shut. If you're a new CEO, staring down the barrel of your first earnings call, the path of least resistance is alarmingly clear. You cannot build new revenue in 90 days. You cannot capture market share in a quarter. You cannot suddenly make your product better, your culture healthier, or your customers more loyal. Those things take years. And you don't have years, you have weeks. But there is one lever that always works in the short term. You can cut jobs. Mass dismissals are really a growth strategy in any classical sense. They do not scale your revenue. They do not expand your capacity. They do not win you new customers. What they do, and what they do with brutal efficiency, is make the numbers look better. Costs drop, margins widen, and poof, profits appear. And for a brief, shining moment, the market applauds. The company frames it as a restructuring for growth. It is a compelling narrative: leaner, meaner, more agile, all the relevant buzzwords. But let us be honest about what is really happening. This is not growth. This is arithmetic. You have subtracted people and called the remainder profit. You have not created value. You have simply stopped paying for it. And for 2 quarters, maybe 3, the illusion holds. Then the lag catches up. The first thing to go is never the balance sheet. It is the quiet, invisible erosion of what accountants call morale, but what anyone who has lived through it calls survivor's grief. The remaining staff, the ones who watch their colleagues pack boxes, do not suddenly become more productive because there are fewer of them. They become afraid. They become exhausted. They start updating their resumes in the bathroom after work, and quiet quitting becomes very loud. Institutional knowledge walks out the door, not with a bang, but with a series of Slack deactivations. The person who knew why that client contract was structured that way, the engineer who understood the legacy system, The sales director who had spent 7 years building trust with a single account, gone, all gone. And with them goes the compound interest of experience that no spreadsheet can model. Productivity does not rise in a leaner organization. It plateaus, then drops. The overworked core starts to leave voluntarily. The voluntary turnover is expensive in ways that layoffs are not. You must recruit. You must train. You must wait months for a new hire to break even with a salary, let alone generate revenue. Meanwhile, the worker does not slow, or the work at least, does not slow down in any shape, form, or manner. It simply becomes undone. Strategy upon strategy is rolled up to fix the mess, each one contradicting the last. The organization, stripped of its human scaffolding, begins to thrash. This is the part nobody talks about in the earnings call where the initial cuts were announced. But the time the damage is visible in the numbers, the CEO who ordered it is often already framing the next turnaround strategy. Now let's be precise. Efficiency is not a myth. There are absolutely moments where a company has genuine redundancy, bloated layers, duplicate roles, processes that technology has made obsolete. In a healthy organization, removing that redundancy and replacing it with better systems, automation, or sharper focus can indeed free people to do higher value work. The remaining workers focus on quality, on market share, on real delivery, revenue growth, because the machine runs better and therefore your revenue will grow. But there is the uncomfortable truth. This only works when the underlying system is functional. You cannot efficiently build your way out of a dysfunctional business. If the culture is broken, if the product is stale, if the strategy is unclear, cutting heads does not fix any of that. It simply makes the dysfunction more concentrated. The efficiency narrative is a tool that works within a functioning corporate system. Used in a broken one, it is not a scalpel. It is actually a sledgehammer swung at a problem that requires surgery. And yet, new CEOs make the case with alarming frequency. They arrive, they diagnose the patient with bloat, and they prescribe amputation. The results, over and over, are dismissal, and the effects hectically dismal. Not because people leaving are essential in every case, but the reason for their leaving was cosmetic to start with. The cuts were not about building a better company. They were about buying time. There is a moral dimension to this that we really allow into boardroom conversations. Because morality does not have a line item on the income statement, even though ESG tells you otherwise. But it should. For capitalism to endure, not as a theory, but as a lived system that people actually want to participate in, society must be a net beneficiary of it. This is the bargain. We tolerate inequality, risk, and creative destruction because, on balance, the system is supposed to generate more good than harm. It is supposed to create livelihoods, solve problems, and build things that outlast the quarterly cycle. But when the system is optimized exclusively for financial metrics, that strips morality, degrades the environment, and commodifies human beings into line items to be deleted. The bargain breaks. People stop believing in it. They stop defending it. And eventually, they start voting against it. With their ballots, with their labor, and with their feet. We're already seeing symptoms. The quiet quitting culture, the union resurgence in non-unionized areas of the world, the deep public suspicion of corporate leadership. These are not random cultural tremors. They are the feedback loop of a system that has forgotten its own purpose. So what is the alternative, you may ask? It is not easy. And that is precisely the point. The alternative is a CEO who walks into the job and tells the truth in their first earnings call. We are not going to fix this in a quarter. We are going to fix it properly, and it will take time. It is a board that protects that CEO when the stock dips 6% on the news. It is an investment community that rewards transparency over theoretical urgency. It is the discipline to distinguish between genuine operational improvement and cosmetic cost cutting. It is the courage to say, if we were cutting jobs, it is because we have built a better way to do the work, not because we need to dress up the next earnings slide. The harder path does not offer the instant gratification of a surprise beat on quarterly profit, but it offers something the alternative never has: a company that is still standing, still innovating, and still trusted 5 years later. In closing, the quarterly trap is not inevitable. It is a choice, repeated thousands of times across thousands of boardrooms, each one rationalized as what the market demands. But markets are just aggregates of decisions, and decisions can change. If we want capitalism to endure, we need to stop asking our corporate leaders to be magicians who pull profit from empty hats every 3 months. We need to move away from the Keynesian belief in shareholder primacy. Though important, shareholders exist within the context of a community, and their needs need to be tended to with the broad understanding of the holistic environment and parties involved. We need to start asking them to be builders of businesses, of communities, and of something that lasts longer than the next earnings cycle. Because a system that treats human beings as expandable inputs in the pursuit of ever-growing financial metrics is not capitalism performing at its peak. It is capitalism eating its own tail. And eventually, even the shortest of short-term thinkers will notice that, and that nothing is left to cut. It really bothers me that we, as builders, CEOs, corporate leaders, owners, shareholders, we are all making these decisions on short-term gains at the expense of long-term value creation and contribution to society. Thank you once again for listening. And if you liked what my thoughts were about, please share with those who would share similar sentiments. And if these have offended you in any way, please indicate, as I'd like to understand what is it that we are missing in this argument. Thank you once again. Until next time, let's keep the core strong.